Hello everyone, welcome back for another edition of Virtual Yin Yoga. I'm your instructor Mike, and I'm happy to have you with me this evening. I wanted to do a special practice, as in, like every yoga practice is special, but this one is different. This one is yoga for digestion. And what we're basing this on is the meridian system of the body. I don't know if you're familiar with what the meridians are, but in the Taoist yoga tradition in ancient Chinese medicine, there are certain meridians, these energetic channels that run up in your body. They start in your fingernails and your toenails. They work their way to certain organs. They work their way up to your brain, and then they make their way back out, right? But there's this constant exchange of taking in energy and pushing out energy. But again, what I wanted to focus on is digestive meridians. So with this in mind, we have a couple of things that will work. We'll work our stomach, obviously. We're going to work our liver, we're going to work our bladder, and our gallbladder. And just so we all know where exactly these are located within the body, the stomach meridians, they run up the front of your body, starting with the quads, working obviously up to the stomach. So this is one, stomach is the front. The gallbladder is on the outside, your IT bands. And then the bladder is your hamstrings, the back of your legs. Your inner thighs are your liver. But the liver itself, again, it starts with the inner thighs, but it actually kind of crosses up and then goes to the outside of the body. So there's going to be a few things that we work. There's going to be 4 areas: inner thighs, hamstrings, IT bands, quads, and the sides of the body, right? This is all to aid in digestion. Now, again, this is based off of the Chinese tradition of medicine, ancient medicine with the meridians. So take it as you will, right? You don't necessarily have to believe this 100% in truth for this to be effective. Just knowing that basic anatomy when it comes to moving your body, everything really aids in digestion, especially twisting. Twisting is one of the best ways to do this, right? But again, if we're correlating this Western information along with Eastern information, we can get a better idea of what exactly is happening and why we're doing these particular movements, right? So try to not believe everything, right? I actually would actively encourage you to question every single thing that I am telling you. And the reason why I want you to do this is because I want you to learn this through experience, through your own experience, right? Try not to take everything as 100% face value. Think about these things critically, and if they resonate with your experience, they're similar experiences, then you can take that knowledge with you. And if you feel like this is for the birds, then that's fine too. I'm never going to be offended if you don't wholly believe into this. So what we'll start with, we're just going to lay on our backs. Doesn't matter which side you're on. You could also, again, be laying on your sides here too, aside from just your back. But I want you to lay down, I want you to close your eyes for a moment, right? While you're here, feel your breath, right? Feel it rise up when you take an inhale, feel it fall back when you take an exhale. And let's not worry too much about an introduction. I'm assuming you all are at least somewhat familiar with this practice, Yin Yoga, just gentle stretches to aid the hips and spine. But again, this particular practice is geared towards the meridians of the body, those energetic channels that run into your digestive system. So let's just go ahead and breathe for a moment. Take a few deep breaths, and when you're ready, you can go ahead and bring your knees up to your chest, and cradle your legs. Rock up and down on your spine, go side to side, make circles. Just taking an opportunity here to wake up these areas. Right? We don't want to just jump right into the stretching. We got to ease into it first, because if you don't warm up, you're probably going to overstretch. Right? This is so common for everybody. And I know for myself, when I was younger, I thought warming up, it's not necessary, but in fact it is. And had I known this when I was younger, I probably would have taken it more seriously before I got into any sporting activity. Some kind of warm up. Now when you're ready, go ahead and make your way for a comfortable seated position. And we're going to start our practice off with the inner thighs. Again, the liver meridian, starting it here. And this is the inner thighs. The butterfly pose is the first option I'm giving you. Soles of the feet brought together in front of you, falling and rounding in the pose as best as you can. Don't worry about getting the head to the feet. All I want you to do is feel your inner thighs stretch and your back if you're bending forward. But I am going to give you another option. Again, if you want to make this more about your hips and isolate more of the inner thighs for the liver meridian, you could lay on your back and do this. It's called Reclining Butterflies. So I'll show you from the side here. You got the soles of the feet together and you're laying on your back. Right? You're letting gravity do all the work here for your inner thighs, for your hips. What I would actually recommend if you're going to do this one is get close to a wall. And the reason why I recommend that is keeping the toes up against the wall prevents your feet from sliding out. A lot of people, myself included, if I do that pose, reclining butterfly, my feet naturally just kind of slide out in front of me. And then I have to make a lot of effort by flexing my quads just to keep my feet in the same area. And we don't want to flex muscles. We want muscles to soften, right? So get close to a wall, have the toes up against it, and then you can just naturally fall into that pose. And I would say if all else fails, you could just do a dragonfly pose. Right? This is sort of your last resort here, inner thigh stretch, when you spread out the legs and you lean forward. Right? Inner thighs and back. You spread out your legs as far as you can with it. But today I'm going to be doing a butterfly pose, just to kind of change things up. And again, don't worry about how far you go. Just really give in to the pose. A lot of people are uncomfortable with this idea of surrendering to a pose, but that's what Yin is all about. It's about giving into the posture itself and being passive. And it's not that all forms of yoga are like this. Meditation and Yin are very much like it, but if you're doing any kind of strengthening yoga, you're not giving into the pose. You're doing the pose. You're being active with it. But again, there's this whole balance between giving and taking, being active and being passive. And that's what yoga, and especially Taoist yoga, is all about. It's about that yin and yang balance to it. Again, or yin and yang, you've probably heard it called before. It's I think it's just in America we call it yang, but I believe, and you can correct me if not, but in Asia and in China they call this yang. When you're ready, there's your time. Just use your hands. Slowly pushing yourself out. Lean back, lay down. Take your time on that. Real slow here. Just laying down. Maybe crack your back a little bit. Sometimes you'll just involuntarily crack your back when you lay down after a pose like that. If not, though, don't worry about it. It's not a big deal if you don't crack. We're going to stretch our hamstrings next. And we're going to do both at the same time with caterpillar pose. This is where you have both legs out in front of you and you lean into the pose. And this is for the back of the legs and for your back. Specifically, the meridian that we're working into, our bladder meridian. So you grab onto something. That could be the knees, shins, ankles, around the feet, toes if you can grab them, but if not, no worries. It's not a toe touching competition. As long as you're able to feel the back of your legs and your back, it's fine. But if you do grab the toes, if you can get there, you'll feel that bonus calf and Achilles tendon. So it's a little bit extra. Could also help work into the bladder meridian a little bit more, but again, don't feel obligated to grab your toes. In fact, if you can't grab anything, you can always use a towel or a yoga strap, a blanket, something that you can throw over your feet to use for leverage to help you go forward into it. And breathe. Deep inhales, deep exhales. If you're really struggling here, you could always let your knees bend. You don't have to lock your legs down. It's a really common alignment rule I hear. Never let your knees bend. It's like, well, why not? If we let the knees bend a little bit, we can bend more into the pose. Now, if you're pretty bendy, you're going to want to obviously have those legs down. You may notice, and maybe not, but sometimes after working your hamstrings, after especially stretching them, you might have to go to the bathroom. Really not uncommon, right? Because again, if we're looking at the ancient Chinese tradition of the meridians, this is what they base acupuncture and acupressure off of. The bladder meridian is in your hamstrings, and a lot of times you will have to get up and use the restroom after stretching your hamstrings. And then other things can come too. Aside from these just connecting to physical organs, it's also believed to connect to your emotions. And in case you're interested on this, and I know for some of you, you might be, but the bladder meridian, its emotion that comes with it is fear. And I'm sure you've experienced this before. When you're scared, your bladder tightens up, and it makes you feel like you have to go to the bathroom. Anxiety comes from this too. I personally experience this all the time. When I was a child, and even to this day, whenever I do any form of arts and crafts, I get horrible anxiety. Don't know why. Probably something happened to me when I was a kid that I'm just not really remembering and I'm repressing. But anytime I do any form of arts and crafts, I start getting anxious. I start feeling my bladder tighten up on me. I start feeling the back of my legs tighten up on me. And so, because I've noticed this, I've been doing my best to give in to that and to fix it, treat the anxiety. So lately I've been doing more arts and crafts. Not necessarily, I personally love to write, and I personally love to play music. But when it comes to like drawing things, that's where I start getting anxious. Start painting, I start getting anxious. So I've been forcing myself to do more of that in certain activities that don't really bother me in that way. And everybody has certain outlets that they can work with. For me, lately it's I'm kind of a nerd, so I like to play Dungeons and Dragons, but I enjoy drawing maps that I use for my group that I play with. That is one form of drawing that does not bother me. So you got to try to find something like that for you to work with. And again, it's not like it's only arts and crafts where you'll feel anxiety. It could be anything, right? It could be anything in your life that starts giving you fear and anxiety. You'll feel that bladder tighten up on you. And to fix it, sometimes you just got to gracefully work into it. When you are ready, there's your time. Using the hands, slowly pushing out. Lean back, lay down, right? Taking your time on this. No rush to move on to the next pose, but give yourself a moment to prepare. The next area we're going to work into, it's going to be our IT bands, iliotibial bands. The outside of your leg runs from hip to knee. Should be a broad stretch, but any pain in your knee or hip, listen up to the modifications I suggest so you can work around that, because I don't want you to push through it. I was going to recommend Swan Pose. This is also known as pigeon if you've done any other style of yoga. We have one leg in front, you got one leg behind. It is your front leg that's going to get stretched to the outside of this front leg here. And you lean into it. Start with your hands. Usually it's enough, but elbows are next, and laying your head on the ground or on a pillow or on a block would be the final step. The back leg can be adjusted too. You could have your back leg perfectly straight, or you can bring it around you to the side, just plays around with the angle of the pelvis. Your front leg shin could be perfectly parallel with the top of your yoga mat. Most likely it won't. I would actually recommend sometimes bending your knee to bring your foot closer in to the groin to help prevent any knee pain. Most of the time that's where the knee pain comes from. It comes from trying to have that front leg parallel at the top of the mat. And again, to talk about the meridian that's working here, it's the gallbladder, which essentially is, it has some functions, obviously, but it's one of those organs that won't necessarily kill you if you don't have it anymore. But again, it's still all integral to every part, every organ. And it's something that we want to keep up on. We don't want our organs to fail. Right? We want them to stay functioning so that we can stay healthy. And especially now, living in a pandemic, and it's been shown that 20% of people who have COVID, their long-term issues is going to revolve around their organs. I'm not saying that this would, cure that, but it could help prevent it. And who knows? This is something that we're not really going to know fully about probably for another 5 or 10 years. That's how long it takes for us to really understand anything. And sometimes we just have to give it time. We just have to give things time for it to really manifest for us to understand it. But we will one day, because that's just what we do as humans. It's what we do. We learn, we live, we educate ourselves, and we move on. Take a few deep breaths, and when you're ready, there's your time. Just real slow, letting yourself out. Lay down, right, for a moment. Take that time here. Other side when you're ready, whatever side you're on. It's the IT band of the other leg. And again, IT band outside of your leg. It will be the front one if you're doing the Swan Pose. Lots of ways to adjust it. We have mentioned front leg shin parallel top of the mat, or bending your knee to bring your foot in close to the groin. Whatever protects your knee and hip is what you need to do. This is definitely the easiest way to work around any of that pain. So if you're feeling it, bend the knee. Usually it's going to take away from it. Lean in, hands, elbows, head on a block, head on the floor if you can get there. If not, though, don't worry about it, right? It's not the point. Back leg could be perfectly straight behind you, or you can start bringing it around you to the side. Just changes the angle of the pelvis. Sometimes it increases the stretch, sometimes it decreases. You never know unless you experience it for yourself. That's the whole point of doing this, to learn through experience, see what works. And again, to focus on the meridian, it is the gallbladder here on the outside of the leg. And with these digestive meridians, these are the ones that really start in your toes. Other things like the intestines, they actually start within your fingers, but typically the higher up the organ, the actual physical organ is, it's typically where the meridian line is going to start. So like our heart, our respiratory system, those are all within fingers, right? But with the stomach and with the bladder, all those lower organs, right, they're usually going to start in your feet. Again, really important to maintain, making sure that they stay healthy. And again, you don't have to buy in to the meridian system, but know that even just your breath can affect your organs. Diaphragmatic breathing, our belly breathing technique, is one of the best breathing techniques that you can do to directly work your organs. And here's what you do. When you breathe low into your diaphragm, it actually gently pushes into those organs. It rocks them back and forth. And this is essentially just moving them, which is the exercise that they need. They just need a little bit of that stimulation, and the breath does that. But think about all the ways that we position our bodies. When we bend forward, we compress things. When we bend backward, we expand things. We have tension on them. Same deal when we twist. So thinking about all of these movements that we do along with our breath, this is what directly affects our organs. Right? Again, we don't have to buy into just believing Eastern medicine. Western medicine correlates with it. And I personally believe that yoga is one of those points where Eastern and Western medicine are going to meet. And I think at some point we're going to start using both of them together. Probably not for a while, but I think that's where we're headed in our future. Go ahead and take a few deep breaths, and when you're ready, there's your time. Just real slow, letting yourself out. Path of least resistance. Laying down here for a moment. We're going to do our quads next, and this is our upper thighs. And I'm going to suggest doing one at a time with our practice today, just to make sure that our knees are okay, because some quad stretches are going to involve knee bending, and I just want to make sure that we can protect it if it is an issue for you. If it's not, though, you could do both at the same time. It's going to be up to you. But what I'm going to suggest for us, I'll throw out 3 choices for you. One is called the half bow, pretty common one that we do in this practice, where you lay on your stomach and you grab a foot and you pull it, right? And the more you pull, the more quad stretch you get, right? It's for the upper thigh here. So you actually got to grab this foot and pull it. And if you can't grab it, use a towel, a Pilates strap, loop it over the ankle, and pull on that. Right? Another option for you is half saddle pose. This is where you have your knee bent and you're leaning back into the pose. Start with your hands. Usually this is going to be enough. Again, feel the upper thigh here of the bent leg. If you need more, keep going. Elbows are next. And then laying on your back is going to be your full range of motion. Your other option is dragon pose, where you're doing a lunge, essentially. And it's your back leg's quad right here. That's going to get that stretch. All of these stretch the quad. So it really comes down to personal preference as to which one you want to do, whichever one you feel most comfortable with. Me teaching right now, I like to do half saddle pose, so I can sit up and look at you. And even if I lean back to my elbows, I'm still able to look up at you. Stomach meridian is what we are directly stressing right now. Again, it runs up the front of the leg, up the quad, stomach, runs up to the brain, runs right back out. Every one of these has an inward and outward movement. And to quote George Harrison, if anybody's fan of the Beatles. If you've listened to the song Within, Without You, which is one of their most psychedelic songs, it has a lot of Eastern philosophy in it. You know, how they say life flows on within and without you. Aside from just the physical sense, there's more to it than that. But again, that's what he's talking about. He's talking about the energy that flows within and without you, as well as life goes on with you and without you. And this is one of those double entendre meanings, and that's why I personally really enjoy listening to them. One of the most unique bands that ever came to be, which is why they were so immensely popular. But back to yoga. Again, feeling that energy move within and without you. Just sensing it, observing it, experiencing it for what it is. Take a few deep breaths, and when you're ready, there is your time. Just real slow, let yourself out. Keep laying down. Path of least resistance, whatever path that is for you. If it's a dragon, usually it's going to head into a child's pose. If you're doing half saddle, you roll away from that leg. Half bow, you just let it go. Take your time. Take a minute, we'll get the other side. Other side. When you're ready, whatever side you are on, whatever pose you're in, I suggested 3. Half bow was the first one, where you lay on your stomach, you grab onto a foot, pull it, the more you pull, the more you get. Muscular effort is required with that pose. And then you could do a half saddle pose, where you got the knee bent and you're leaning back. Start with your hands. So upper thigh is going to get it at the bent leg. If you need more, keep going. Elbows will be next. Laying on your back with your full range. Don't jump into that though. Don't jump in right away. Give yourself that time to ease into it. And then dragon pose is your last option, where you're basically just doing a lunge for the most part. And again, it's your back legs quad. Let's get in the stretch. Whichever one of these you would like to do. And just so you know, you don't have to do the same pose on the other side. As long as you are stretching your quad, that's all I care about. Right? It's making sure that we're hitting that right there. Working up into our stomachs here. And all this is to aid in our digestive system. And a lot of people have digestive issues. And again, I'm not going to say that yoga is the cure-all, but it's a physical practice that helps treat things and can help prevent things. And that's a big difference, right? Treating something and curing something are two completely different things. And this is also why doctors can't say that certain things cure unless it's a vaccine, which in case that's, even then, I guess not really. That's more for prevention, obviously, right? So it's not really a cure. So I don't think there's really a cure for anything. You treat the symptoms, and then the symptoms go down. And that's how things are cured, how they go away. Remember to breathe here. Really breathe low into that diaphragm. Really try to let everything soften as best as you can. And if you notice muscles are flexing, they're tensing, they're engaging, you're just going too far. Ease out from it. Let muscles soften. Feel a gentle bit of stretching going on while you can relax. When you're ready, there's your time. Real slow, letting yourself out in that path of least resistance. If that is a half saddle, you do what I did, you let that leg out slow. And if you're in half bow, let it go. Dragons probably want to work into a child's pose. We're going to do a few more things. We're going to do a twist to each side, we do a back bend, and then we're going to wrap this practice up, special digestive yoga practice. So why don't let's start with the back bend, and then we can use the twist to be our last pose. Sphinx Pose is going to be the one I recommend, but there is going to be a slight twist to it. Sphinx Pose, you lay in your stomach, you prop up on your forearms, your elbows. This is the pose. You shouldn't feel any stretching. You should just feel this dull pressure right here in your lower back and the lumbar spine. That's all it should be. Anything sharp, just come down. And again, the reason why I'm recommending this pose is for the extension of the spine. And this can indirectly work your stomach once again, right? Because the whole stomach meridian is not just in the quad, it runs up through the front of your body too. So another way to work it, how I like to do it, is by pushing into a seal pose. I'm doing this in a very modified way. My hand's pretty far out in front of me. And the reason why is because if I work my hands in closer to my hips, just watch what happens. See how my elbows are bent? But watch what happens when I straighten. See how my hips come up now? I'm going way past my full range. The moment your hips lift up here, which I have a significant amount, that is the moment your lower back has reached full range. So to prevent it from going too far, you walk those hands out in front of you here. Just felt my back crack doing this too. Well, that doesn't happen. But I can really feel my stomach muscles stretching here, aside from the compression in my lower back. Go ahead and take a few deep breaths, so when you're ready, there's your time, just about 3 minutes here. Lay in your stomach. Take a moment. It's going to feel nice. Got one more pose. We got to do a twist. We'll do it to each side. And again, this is for the liver meridians, those sides of the body. That's where it also goes. Again, we had mentioned this too. It starts with the inner thighs and then works its way up to the outside. So we're going to go left to start it, unless you want to do it the other side. It's totally fine. You lay on your back, knees up the chest, take the legs over to the left, lay them on the floor. This is the pose. And again, we just want to feel the side stretching right here. Let's not worry too much about our legs, although sometimes they can be involved here. Again, most of this is right here for the obliques. This is another way that we directly work into our organs. Think of what happens when you twist your body, right? How when we're essentially like wringing ourselves out when we do a twist. Like if you've ever taken a wet towel and you've just done that twisting motion, that's essentially what's happening here. But then you're also breathing low into your diaphragm. So while your organs are twisted a little bit, you're breathing into them. right? You're pushing them up and bringing them back to that rocking motion. And that is the workout that they need. Some gentle movement. When you're ready, there's a time, just real slow, unwinding your twist. Take time out. Other side. Ready. Whatever side you're on, but if you're on the same page as me, you're going right. So bring those knees up to the chest, taking the legs over to the right, lay them on the floor. This is the pose. Feel the left side of the body stretching, right? Nice oblique side body stretch on that left side for you. Breathe into it. And again, try not to worry too much about the depth of the pose. This is more, again, specifically for the liver meridian, and to really twist those organs so you can breathe into them with your belly breathing technique. Go ahead and take a few deep breaths, and when you're ready, there is your time slowly unwinding from your twist. And there's the sequence for your digestive system. If there's anything else that I could recommend aside from stretching, if you are familiar with Kegel exercises, Kegel exercises I sometimes call it, it's really the pelvic floor, strengthen those muscles. Again, and the reason for this, when those muscles are when those muscles are strong, I should say, it helps keep your organs in place. It helps prevent them from prolapsing a little bit, right? Which obviously we really, really don't want. So make sure, aside from stretching and doing this particular technique, this practice, this sequence, make sure you strengthen your pelvic floor, right? And there's plenty of techniques out there for that, so go ahead and research those on your own because we don't have time for it here tonight. But when you're ready, let's go ahead and we'll close our eyes. You can lay on your back, you can lay on your side, you can lay on your stomach, you can sit upright like you're in meditation. So wherever you're most comfortable, go there and close your eyes. There's nothing to see. At this point, it's more to feel, pay attention to. Focus on your breath, breathe low in your belly, and do your best to really observe what you just did. Again, really trying to keep your experience and your awareness with the belly, right? Feeling the stomach, the liver, the gallbladder, your bladder. Just experiencing what you just went through. no formal ending to our practice. Stay in your Shavasana as long as you like. That is officially all that I have for you. I want to thank you for watching and sharing your practice with me. It's been my pleasure. Namaste.